Okay, so I'd just like to take this time to introduce our wonderful panelists. First, we have Jackie Liu, who is a current senior at Weston High School in Weston, Massachusetts. She founded in 2019 and co-leads her school's Girl Up chapter, as well as serves on as the Girl Up New England regional team leader. She paints a lot in her free time, often aiming to incorporate social justice and issue awareness within her works. Her pieces are posted on her Instagram at Jackie Liu Art and on her TikTok accounts. And next we have Lily Boyd, who is a 16-year-old creative from Brooklyn, New York. She's currently the managing director of FeminArt Magazine, a for youth, by youth media brand and collective. She's also been the head of social media and assistant head of Teen Speak Up, which provided activism opportunities for youth in a reliable news outlet. She's passionate about climate action, racial justice, and so much more. Thank you for coming.
Okay, so we also have another panelist joining us, but she is having technical issues right now, and so she is trying to join. So we're just gonna start, and hopefully she will be here soon. Okay, so first, if you guys, we did like a little introduction, but if you want to go around and just introduce yourselves and like what you kind of do in the media, that would be great.
Okay, hi, I'm Jackie. I don't know what else I can add. I guess I am a TikToker. Like, yeah, I started my TikTok account in March of 2020, pandemic boredom. So that's been pretty crazy, but it really just like completely changed my life. And yeah, and then I also post on Instagram too.
Hi, I'm Lily. Yeah, I also don't know how much there is to add, but I am a fellow TikTok connoisseur. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm the managing director of Our Era, which is in itself, it has a lot to do with media, but yeah, I think that's really it for introduction.
Okay, and I think Trisha just joined. So she is a 17-year-old artivist, feminist, and writer based in Washington. Her art account is at tree_bear art. Recently, she has concentrated on raising awareness for various causes through her work. She's the founder and CEO of the Artshine Foundation at ASF Youth, a nonprofit dedicated to combining community service and activism with the arts. And she believes that artists have the power to collectively improve humanity. So I think she's still having technical issues, so it may take a while for her to get on, but we're just gonna start the questions. So for you two, how would you define media and what does it mean to you?
I would say like any form of communication to an audience that comprises a larger community, and that community can really be anything that you choose. But I think one of the beautiful things about media is that you can really expand your reach to people who you've never met before and just reach all kinds of people around the world.
For me, I think I would define media as a way to share passions and interests and information in a way that can incorporate art and creativity in a way that's accessible to a large group. And what does it mean to me? Oh gosh, it means, I mean, I think we talk about this a lot, but I think a lot of the debate is whether or not social media was the best or the worst invention. And for me, that's definitely like a really big question. For me, it means a way to cross bridges that we wouldn't otherwise be able to cross.
Yeah, definitely. And then going off that, what motivated you guys to begin working in the media? And then is there like a figure in the media who inspires you? And if so, why?
Um, so I actually started my first art Instagram account when I was in fifth grade. I was 10. So it's because my friend actually, she was also like an artist, and we just did like a fun little, oh, we're gonna be like Instagram besties or whatever. But yeah, so that kind of started it, and it really gave me a sense of community, and it was really cool to like share my passions with the wider world. And TikTok I already touched upon, boredom. So that's how I got there. But yeah, I wouldn't say, I don't know necessarily like one specific person in the media who inspires me, but like there are very, very many people. Just like you can see incredible people doing incredible things. And then another thing is like the community that I found on both Instagram and TikTok. There is just such kind and generous people who are willing to share their knowledge. They're willing to support you. And I think that that is what has sustained me, just finding community.
What motivated me to really, well, this is kind of just what motivated me to get into the space in general, but the Parkland shooting, I mean, I still am, but I used to really focus heavily on that whole area and just like gun restrictions and legislation and all of that. But that event really inspired me to get working and get into the activist space. Who inspires me? I love Chrissy Teigen. Her tweets are the best, but I think she's also someone that uses media in a very powerful and positive way to speak up for her beliefs. And maybe that's just because I also happen to coincide with her beliefs, but she's definitely someone who's inspiring for me.
Yeah, that's great. And I like, Jackie, how you brought up like the input of followers and how that kind of impacts your work. What are some ways you think using media as an advocacy platform can be more diverse and inclusive of others?
I think definitely supporting and amplifying the voices of those who are marginalized and you might not see as the mainstream media figures. And I think that like a lot of times social media isn't an accurate reflection of our world, but instead perpetuates this unrealistic ideal. So I think just making sure to incorporate voices of people of color, people of different body sizes, people who are neurodivergent, people who are LGBTQ plus, just making sure to be inclusive in who you engage with, who you follow. Yeah, and just try to find people who don't look like what you might see like from Addison Rae or
I mean, yeah, going right off that, in the magazine world, Lucy, who's the editor-in-chief, and the whole entire team of Our Era are very conscious about who we have in the magazine, like as models, because we want to be inclusive. And the point of it being Our Era is that it represents everyone. So that means having models of all body sizes and of all race and ooh, sorry, that's the puppy. Any gender identity and, you know, any social differences. So I think that can definitely be a difficulty right now, especially with having people being available and safe to represent in terms of their own comfortability, showing up to events where we have to, you know, I mean, we often have masks off for photos, but, you know, just making sure that everyone who shows up is comfortable and really representing our era.
Yeah, those were some great points. And I see Trisha just joined, so welcome. We were just talking about what are some ways you think using media as an advocacy platform can be more diverse and inclusive, if you wanted to speak on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties. My Zoom has been wacky. But I think that's a really great question. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Trisha. I'm the founder and CEO of the Artshine Foundation. We do community service work through art, and we utilize art to improve people's lives. And social media has been kind of really transformative in my journey as an artivist, because I wouldn't have been able to form my team or even launch this nonprofit if I didn't have the power of technology at my fingertips. Like I branched out into so many different communities just basically through Instagram. If I didn't have that platform, I don't think I would have been able to even connect with all of these youth across the world. Our team is composed of youth artists from around 8 countries, and that just can't be possible without, you know, the technology that we have available at our fingertips. It just connects the world around us, and where we're so much more interconnected through the networks that we have, just in our phones. We have these screens at our disposal, which can be used as such an important tool to connect people across the world for such important causes. So I don't think I would have been able to form my nonprofit or meet all these amazing, wonderful activists if it wasn't through these social media platforms. And that goes for this as well. I wouldn't be speaking here if Instagram wasn't a thing. I didn't even know, Girl Up existed until I was on Instagram, and a few months ago, I saw these chapters, and that has connected me with you guys here today over Zoom. So I think it's just an integral part of what we do as activists.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of branching off that, I think you spoke on it a lot, but for our other two panelists, and you can also speak on it more, what would you say are some of the disadvantages and advantages to media being so influential and accessible in the world right now?
Advantages, definitely. I already touched upon this, but having access to such a wide audience and like diverse audience, it's so incredible that I like receive messages, and I've sent art to like places all over the world. I've sent art to Germany, Indonesia, Australia, Canada, and just it really connects us and makes our world smaller, and I think binds us together in a lot of different ways, which is incredible. And it allows for like so many diverse issues to be spoken upon and amplified in different spaces. Disadvantage, I guess, a lot of it can be polarizing, especially with the algorithms that basically function off of confirmation bias, just feeding you things that you already believe, and that can drive people further apart. And also, I think, again, like the perpetuation of these ideals that aren't realistic, but instead drive people to strive for something that is either fake or photoshopped, or just like the highlights of someone's life that make people think that like this is how people are all the time, can definitely have a negative impact on mental health. But I think that if media is harnessed in the right way, then it can do a lot of good in the world.
I mean, yeah, props to all of that. I touched on this earlier, but I think the biggest advantage would be the ability to connect. I mean, that's what media is, but just the ability to connect through whatever kind of separation one has. But I think a large disadvantage, especially being younger, is that you don't always get taken seriously. And whether that for whatever reason, but on media, I think it's really hard to be taken seriously by adults who have media. Like specifically talking about Instagram, we talk a lot about political events, and it's hard to be taken seriously on media when part of your platform is that you are youth. Um, I think that's probably the biggest disadvantage for us that we experience as a magazine.
I mean, I completely agree with what has been already said. I think the most important aspect about social media is how interconnected we are through it. And just being able to speak to activists from across the world, it's not something that you can do through other means. But I think Jackie touched on polarization, and I really feel that, especially in today's world where people are so opinionated, and so, their beliefs are so deeply ingrained within themselves that sometimes they're just not open to hearing other perspectives and ideas. And along with that, I mean, social media really propagates insecurities, especially when there are these unrealistic standards that it seems like you're kind of being pitted against when people are posting things about themselves or kind of instigating, uncomfortable conversations. It's not something that you can just like run away from because it's right there. So I definitely think that it comes with its pros and
Yeah, those are some really great points. I definitely agree with all those things. And do you guys mind like sharing some personal challenges you faced as you use media, maybe personal to your work or just in general with the platform?
For me, definitely this is more specific to TikTok than for Instagram because the algorithm is kind of whack. But I think sometimes, like, even though I try to tell myself that I don't care about metrics at all, like I know that I probably care at least a little bit. And like sometimes like the views I get kind of dictates how I think about like my product, like my work output, and it makes me think like, oh, I must have done something wrong if this didn't get X amount of views. Which I know like isn't true. There's basically like no correlation. A lot of it is just dumb luck to me. That like one of my more recent pieces, I thought it was one of the ugliest things I'd ever painted, and it got the most views out of any video I've ever posted. So it's just so random, but I think that sometimes it can dictate how I think about myself, which is unfortunate. And then also just mean people on the internet will always be mean, and like now I try to just not let it get to me, and sometimes I just don't even read comments. But some people, especially like when you get political or try and like assert any semblance of like your personal beliefs, there will be people who will shut you down, who will attack you, who will disparage your character. Yeah, so I think just like pushing through and just not letting internet trolls get to you.
The biggest personal challenge for me, and I think this was really present this summer with all of the Black Lives Matter protests that began to really gain momentum, and just everything that was happening, was dealing with guilt. And because Bernadine touched on this, which I really appreciated, but I feel like so much we feel guilt because there are so many things to absorb and so many things to post, and sometimes it can get overwhelming. And feeling that shift of like posting things because you're worried about like other people and their perception of you, but also like I'm someone who's very open about mental health and being like a mental health advocate as someone that deals with it myself, but dealing with the guilt of feeling so overwhelmed and so tired that I need to step away from media, because media can be exhausting, as I'm sure we all feel, like being up at 3 a.m. and wanting to be on my phone or my computer, just learning more and more and more, but sleep has to happen. But probably the biggest personal difficulty is guilt and wanting to be not only the best activist I can, but be the best person I can. And just wanting to give everything my attention, but you can't always do that, because otherwise you're just going to wind up hurting yourself.
Yeah, I definitely agree with those sentiments. I feel like on social media, you're just susceptible to a lot of public scrutiny, and that's not something that you can escape. So whatever comments come your way, whatever opinions come your way, you see all of that, and it's really hard to not to unsee that. I think the other thing is that there's like a standard that gets set in social media where you're just constantly running towards some quantity, whether it's followers, whether it's engagement, whether it's how many people clicked on your post, whether it's things that you've done, where you've been interviewed. And as Lily was saying, it gets exhausting sometimes because like you are just trying to do the best you can to improve people's lives, and people are turning it into a competition on social media when it's not a competition, and social media should be used as an outlet to help others and connect people across the world over good causes. And so when people don't understand that, it gets kind of frustrating because social media should not be used as a competition. It's such a powerful tool. Why would you use it for things like that? So I think just that frustration has been kind of the most challenging aspect of my using social media. But I feel like there are also positives, again, because you find other people who have the same mindset, and with those people you can work together to change other mindsets and influence media to be a better space, a more progressive space.
Yeah, definitely. And I really liked what you said, Lily, about feeling overwhelmed, because I think I feel that a lot too. And I'm not even like a prominent figure in the media. So I can't imagine how it is for you guys to, have all these people and you're concerned about your followers, but also like what other people are saying and like making sure you're getting the right thing out there. So that being said, what is some advice you would give to someone who maybe wants to use media to spark change? Maybe they want to like create their own thing, like own company or something, or maybe they just want to post about something they're passionate about. What advice would you give them?
I think biggest tip would be to find your niche. So like find a reason why someone would want to engage with your content as opposed to someone else, like something that is unique to you. And through that, you can really build a personal connection with your audience, because I think that once your audience is invested, then the strength of the support is just that much greater. So I think it's like so much better to have 5 followers who genuinely care about you and care about your message than like 100 followers or 1,000 followers who just like follow you superficially but don't really are not invested in what you have to say. So I think build something that is unique to you, that is reflection of, as Bernadine said earlier, like your essence. Yeah, and also just don't be afraid to go out there and just speak your mind. I think another thing that I think Lily and Trisha kind of were alluding to earlier, along with the overwhelm, I think there's a lot of guilt around performative activism. And I think that, yes, activism can definitely be performative, especially if it's hypocritical and it's just for social clout. To kind of scare off people who may want to take the first step in engaging but are like afraid to because of that perceived social backlash. So I think that, like, especially now in a COVID era when we don't really have that many resources for like tangible action, like posting about it is still a step, and some activism is always better than no activism.
My greatest advice would be just to go for it. Like, you're never gonna know what you're missing out on if you don't just go for it. When I started getting in the space, my biggest concern was what other people would think and what other people were gonna say, but it doesn't matter. This is kind of corny, but at the end of the day, you're left with yourself. And if you're proud of what you're doing and you can make something that you're proud of and that you can stand behind, that's all that matters. So my greatest advice would be just, I mean, as was said, do something that embodies your essence, and just make sure you're doing something that you as an individual can be proud of.
So when I first entered social media as an activist, I started off really small, just with like a tiny fundraiser, which I didn't even know if I would be able to pull off. But after that, I was like, I want to involve other youth in artivism, and why can't I do that? Like, I have the potential to do that. I should be able to. And without even really thinking about it, I just dove into it. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is like the mission I have in mind. And I just started asking people if they were interested in joining my mission. And no one like told me to do that. No one was like, just start messaging people, just start talking to people. But I think that's just how you get started. I don't think there is another way for you to get started. And if you are passionate about that mission, people can see that, and you can kind of invigorate them to also be passionate about your vision and your mission. And I feel like when people see that, then they become inspired to join forces with you and listen to you and trust your leadership. And so I think, as Lily was saying, the best thing to do is just go out there. Don't be afraid of anyone or what anyone is going to say. You will find people who support you on social media, who believe in what you're doing and who can see your interest and engagement in the thing that you're trying to start.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all very grateful that you guys did it and decided to go with what you were passionate about. And so to conclude, could you all elaborate on a specific issue that you are fighting to change with your work in the media?
Definitely, I'm trying to work to address more issues that I'm passionate about, especially like racial justice, environment stuff, gender equality, obviously. I think I'm working on balancing that with like getting over the fear of backlash, because just I've experienced it firsthand on TikTok. It's just people will be mean, and I think I just have to get over that fear. But something that I've definitely been doing is being more open about like personal struggles and mental health. And I think that a lot of hopefully that like my personal narratives can help open more discourse and make people more comfortable with sharing their own struggles with the world and just knowing that they're not alone.
I think a specific issue we're trying to change with our work in the media is changing inclusivity in the magazine world. because it's very specific to older people. So we're trying to change that youth can be more included and just every part of the youth.
So with our work, we have done 3 projects. Both of them are very close to my heart because they're issues that I deeply care about, which is why I even launched these initiatives in the first place. So we did a Black Lives Matter gallery advocating for racial inclusivity through our work, just because of how, you know, we're in a time where everyone is really polarized. And this is a really big issue right now, and we need to see more equality just in the spaces that we're in. So we did that. Then our next initiative was surrounding kind of mental health for the elderly, because they're really depressed during this time. They can't see their loved ones. They don't really have any connections to the outside world. So through our artwork, we were trying to show them that there is still hope and that we are thinking about them. And then just a couple of weeks ago, we launched our FeminArt Magazine, where all these youth artists, we came together to advocate for gender equality. And as an avid feminist, that's really important to me. It's something that I always advocate for through my work. So just being able to see other youth creators come together to advocate for that cause was really beautiful to me.
Yeah, and you guys are all fighting for such great issues. Thank you so much for being here today. We're so lucky to have you and hear from all your experience, and it was very inspiring. So we have all your stuff on social media, but I don't know if you want to drop your ats in the chat so people can follow you. But again, thank you guys so much for being here. And I think now we're going to transition into our presentation. So again, thank you, everyone.